Okay, it is another bright, sunny, 90-degree day, and I want to get this solar panel array online. And what I did is I actually pre-wired it last year for this last array. I'm using more wire than I would like to, but it's still not that much wire, so it shouldn't be an issue. I went back and forth on what would be the best way to wire up these 6 panels down here and the 3 up on the roof, and you'll see here shortly, but I changed my mind a few times. I didn't even think to take into consideration that the upper portion of this solar panel array would get sun before the lower 6 panels would, and that would in fact cause an imbalance in this solar array. I initially wired it from top to bottom, then bottom up, and I still had some concerns. I have to run a total of 4 wires from the array down there. Two of the wires come to these 3 panels, then the other 2 wires go over to the junction box, and that is already pre-wired down to the inverter. So the thing that's important is whatever wires I use on the positive and negative side, they have to be the same length. So as long as I can do that, everything should be okay. Because I pre-wired the conduit, I have to get up here to the junction box. And I'm not crazy about using a whole bunch of wire to go down and then back up, which is kind of what I was thinking. I may just run some wires across the top right here for now to get it online. And then I'm going to make a phone call and talk with the right people and make sure that the way that I'm wiring this up isn't going to hurt the solar panels or the inverter or batteries. Because I know the length of the wire in between solar panels is very important, until I make sure that the way that I'm wiring this is the best way to wire it. I guess that's what I'm going to do. This is about the moment that I would send a text message to my contacts at Lion Energy looking for a little bit of guidance and help. And it didn't take them long at all to point out that the upper array and the lower array should not be tied in together. Okay, so I just took a little break and I made a phone call down to Lion Energy. And because I use their inverters and their batteries, I explained to them what I was doing with my solar panels. And I'm going to make some changes. Brian recommended that I not wire it the way that I'm wiring it, but that I keep the second story panels all together on one and these panels all together on one. Mainly because the upper panels are going to get sun earlier, which means it wouldn't have been balanced very well. So that changes how I'm going to wire it. So I need to unplug some stuff. Again, I'm kind of temporarily getting this done because I'm still waiting for the mid-span brace to go in. I'm waiting for some parts to show up. So I'm not going to run the conduit until I have this mid-span brace in, but I want to get it wired up and get it online. So I need to make a couple of changes, and then I have to just run the wire down to the inverter. So these 6 panels will now be an independent array, and the 3 new panels that I put up on the second story will now be tied in with the other 9. Okay, I'm going to change this again. I'm going to go ahead and basically undo what I just did and run it from the top down and come around the back of the eave instead of going around the front, because I am just going to basically zip tie these wires in place long enough to get it online and make sure everything's working. I'm not horribly concerned about it, but at the same time, I'm not going to run the conduit for the other array until I can see how this array does through this winter. So after talking with Brian at Lion Energy, I will have one solar panel array made up of 9 solar panels. Then the next one will be 12 solar panels. Then this new one right here will be 6 standalone panels. So it's a little bit reconfigured on how I originally planned on doing it. But as long as it charges the batteries properly, it doesn't matter too much to me how it's set up. We've come a long way on the evolution of our solar system, but one of the best parts about where we are now is simply having the right people to answer questions when I have questions. Now I'm going to go plug in the circuit up there on the solar panel array. Then we should have the voltage coming in from those solar panels. So. All right, so out of the 6 panel array, it goes across, down, and then I just secured it to the conduit all the way down and into the house. So all I have to do is throw the PV switch on the side of the inverter, and what I have to do now is through the app on my phone over the next 2 hours, I'll watch it. But I'm going to leave this open until I get the other array up there wired in. But that's charging. So that'll give us one 9-panel array, one 12-panel array, one 6-panel array, and then potentially one more 9-panel array. When I called down to Lion Energy, Brian's big concern was the fact that the sun is going to hit the upper solar panels much earlier than the lower panels, so they probably shouldn't be wired up together. I'm going to disconnect one of the MC4 connectors on the 9-panel array, and I'm going to wire the other 3 panels into it, and then I'm going to turn it back on and we should be good. Now I'm taking the 3 panels that I added to the second story and I'm wiring it back in with the other 9 panels, making the positive negative loop work properly, and now this solar panel array is good to go. If I did my job right now, I just need to go down there and throw that DC switch on the side of the inverter and we should be good to go. All right, let's try this one more time. So PV on, All right, we are back to having 27 solar panels online, although they're in a little bit different configuration. I'm gonna put the covers back on everything and tuck the wires in where they go. And then I'm gonna go for a ride on my four-wheeler. Okay, I have about 2 hours of daylight left. I told Cedar where I was going. It's probably about 1.5 miles from right here, maybe closer to 2 miles. Once the sun goes down, and I don't want to be up there trying to figure out how to get down once it gets dark. So I'm going to hustle up and get up there. And if I have enough time, I'm going to go to the upper spring, and possibly even there's a source spring up there I'd love to go see, but it comes down to how quick I can do it. All right, it's... Okay, this is the lowest pond. This is not the normal pond that I often take Callie and Reed to, but this is the lowest pond fed by these series of springs. And this one is almost always dry this time of year, so I'm gonna try and work my way up there to the next spring, and my hope is that the next spring there's water. So we have water down here at the spring, which is good. That was one of my concerns. So this spring is fed by another spring that should be about half a mile that way. That point of the mountain up there is where we started fencing down, to put that into perspective. So okay, so this spring is good to go too. There's plenty of water up here. And this is still, that's being fed by another spring, which I believe is this way. I'm gonna follow that trail. I'm gonna follow this, and I think it drops down to where the creek is. The spring that feeds this spring would have to be higher than here. Obviously this spring is gravity fed, so this is some seriously pretty country up here. I once told my wife, I said I would have bought our land just knowing that you can ride four-wheelers and horses and all the things that we, there's trails that go all over this corner of the world, literally hundreds of miles of trails. I'm gonna keep following this trail. I'm trying to decide if I have enough time to do the full loop, and it's a pretty big loop. I don't even know how many miles it is. It's got to be 6 or 8. I don't know, but I know on a four-wheeler it's a couple of hours at least. So if I go to the right and follow it around, it climbs up into that draw, and it gets up probably another 1,000 feet higher, and all of the trees change from maples to Doug firs and spruce trees and aspen trees. I've only done this one other time, and it's probably been 6 years ago. And the old Sportsman Polaris four-wheeler that I had, I was terrified wasn't going to make it the whole time. And I have all the confidence in the world in this old Honda Foreman, but it has a little bit less than a half a tank, so I'm going to have to. I think I can make it though. So here we go. This is the last cow tank that has any water up here that I'm aware of, other than the springs. But if I keep going straight, I've only been this way one other time, but it does a big loop and then goes back down to our house. I'm gonna go ahead and go this way, and if I remember correctly, I just saw a couple of deer, but if I remember correctly, it is a very steep drop off. But here we go. So there's a spot back in here where there's a spring, and that's where I want to take Callie and Reed and Cedar and come camping back here. You know, I'm going to go back down, go to the left, follow that trail, and it should eventually put me right back in front of my house.
Oh, I ain't gonna live like this no more. Most of my life's been waging war. Till I found peace, I could've swore. What she did shook me to the core, and I ain't gonna live like that no more. Well, I ain't gonna live like this no more. Trouble comes when the barmaid pours.
Thought I would real quickly stop by the headstone and clean it up a little bit, I guess. So this is the cow pond that Callie and Reed and myself come to in the springtime before the cows are turned loose up here, and that's no longer drinkable water. So
Living in a lie. Boy, I had to cut ties, settle the score. I ain't gonna live like this no more.
so that took me exactly an hour and 30 minutes. and I checked every spring along the way. So that's not bad at all. So what I'm thinking is this spot right here that's kind of even with the trail. I think if I dug back, I may have to throw some of the dirt down here. But I think I can tuck it back into this hill right here. Even from right here to the base of that tree is probably 6 feet. I think that's the strategy. I'll have to offset it off the road a little bit to give me the room to, the water line is right back down here, so I need to take that into consideration. If I can come down about right here and start digging back into the hill, the water line's not far away. Water line's right over here. I kind of need a place to park when I'm up here working on this thing. But then what I'm going to do is get my measurements right, get the railroad ties set in place, backfill as much as I can, get one tank moved down here, and then I just have to connect to the existing water line. So again, I'm going to rent my excavator that I rent all the time, and I'll probably spend a couple of days just digging this out. Then I'll make sure it's completely level. If I do it right here into this little hill and do it right close by, I think I can take one tank at a time, move it down here, make the connections. So I'm gonna go rent that excavator that I always rent. That thing should be plenty big enough to move this around and do what I need to do here.